Well, these instruments have got a history of not so much the mechanics and the technology and the optics and everything, but the people who use them. When we looked into it, it was actually very hard to find out much about that. We know something about the history of the microscope, so we thought, well, let's reimagine it. So the Microscope project is reimagining the past and future of these instruments.
I mean, it came about because Ian was working at Flinders. He knew that these microscopes were going to be decommissioned. He had a link with Catherine, and so between them I think they hatched a plan that instead of these instruments being, you know, just taken to Denron, they were going to be, you know, put into an artistic project. For the first 6 months we did a lot of walking around, just wondering what to do and picking up the parts and putting them down again.
It was like being in an ocean of these amazing, highly engineered, specialised machine parts, and gradually it dawned on me that there was a human story behind these machines, that somebody had designed them. Somebody had actually constructed them. And of course, you know, people used them. You know, there was a real sense of humanity that began to evolve, began to kind of manifest.
One of the first things I did was try and shift this little machine from something that was really alien to us to something that I could approach.
It was a project that was actually quite difficult to work on because the microscopes, the electron microscopes, are such amazing pieces of equipment. And I often find it very, very difficult to work with really, really beautiful or really amazing, or things that are already loaded with so much incredible history.
To think of the sort of evolution of the microscope from that glass lens to what we see now is quite astounding, really.
I didn't even know what an electron microscope is, like what's behind me. It's like fairly unrecognisable as a microscope to me.
For me, the project is the process of generation, of communicating between the science aspects and the art aspects, and how they've come together, how there's been humanity embedded in both those kinds of contexts.
The materials themselves, the contraptions and all the components of the microscopes are fundamentally scientific. They have that very highly engineered look about them. But I think that the function of the works that are being produced hovers from the scientific through to, you know, like in my case, the domestic. In the case of some of the works, they're objects that we might expect to see more in a nightclub or something like that.
I think the audience will be really surprised. I think the artists will be really surprised too, because we've been immersed in this studio space with a massive equipment and pieces of elements of microscopes that have been taken apart and spread out, kind of like intestines in front of us. Very neat, orderly kind of arrangement.
One of the questions which people have asked when they've come in to see the work in progress highlight the ambiguity of a lot of what we've done. I suppose one of the things which that comes back to is what do you expect to see when you look down a microscope? The show's not about the imaging itself, it's about the instruments, and it's about the way in which the components of instruments interact with each other and with people.